What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Legion, Season 1, Episode 3, Chapter 3. Loving these names. But this is the third episode. It's more building on the story, more building on the characters. But it does take us into a new place as far as the show is concerned, because the first two episodes were pretty much building. First one kind of showing us who David is and introducing us to him, the stuff going on with him, where he is in the hospital, all that stuff. And then introduced us to these people that were coming to rescue him. Second one was more learning about that place, learning about what they do there, trying to help David, stuff like that. This one definitely takes us in a new direction that's a lot more of a psychological thriller, in my opinion. Just everything to do with being inside of his mind and seeing what he's going through and seeing all that stuff is definitely very interesting in the way they're handling it. Mainly because it just feels so out there. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what to expect whenever they go inside of his mind. But clearly, it's a lot more scary. It's a lot more like just you're anticipating something bad's about to happen, and so it's like, oh, what's going to happen next? But yeah, overall, I mean, a really, really good episode. So let's talk about the few things that are happening. The first one, of course, is to talk about his sister. She's being held by the Division 3 people, and we hear about this guy that apparently was there whenever Miss Bird, her husband, and Carrie, the older Carrie. I finally realized that I talked about it last episode. I wasn't sure what his deal was, saying he was talking to Carrie, and it's like, but not you, Carrie. He's like, yes, not me, Carrie. Apparently, I think his daughter is named Carrie as well. So whenever he's talking to that Carrie, it gets confusing. But anyway, um, that Carrie and then Miss Bird's husband, they built this place that they're staying at now to help mutants that were discovering their powers. But this guy with the milky eye, right now on IMDb he's called the Eye, so I don't know if we're gonna figure out more about him later on. But apparently he wanted to hurt people. He wasn't interested in helping. So that's who he is, and that's why he wants to track him down. I'm guessing we'll get a bit more of his reasoning as we go on to the season. But they're questioning the sister, and there's one point where David takes Sid with him and jumps to that spot. I'm guessing telekinesis somehow. I don't really know how to describe it. But he's there with Sid, but in like astral form. And so they're seeing this interrogation, but then the guy with the eye, he sees them as well and tries to grab them. But then they make it back to the school. So it's kind of an interesting little tidbit thrown in there that they're able to jump from place to place. And it was actually brought up. They were inside of that cube where they do the memory stuff. And then all of a sudden, there's a moment where they're in the kitchen when it's exploding, and David sees the demon with the yellow eyes, but they can't see it. Kind of confirming the fact that this isn't something in David's mind, this is something involved with his power, something only he can see, even when they're in his memory. So we see, they're trying to find out what's going on. They try to go into the kitchen where everything's exploding, and the door slams shut on them. And it's not a part of the memory, it just happened. And so, but he shouldn't be able to control the memory like this. So they try to go back to see before, and then all of a sudden they end up in this conference room looking thing that's in the real world. So somehow they teleported from the box where they're doing the memory stuff all the way to this room. Don't know how. I don't know how he does it, but it's very, very interesting. And kind of like the whole when he was inside the MRI machine, transporting that from inside the room to outside the school. It's very curious to see how he's able to transport stuff, because telekinesis shouldn't involve transporting, right? But it does somehow. So that'll be very interesting to see how that's happening. But so we see the teleportation stuff going on, and so they finally realize the best thing to do for David, after trying to get into his memories, trying to learn more, they keep encountering resistance from not sure if it's David, not sure if it's this demon, but somehow they're encountering resistance from David's mind without him even knowing about it. And so they sedate him, thinking, okay, so the resistance now will go away. It does, but unfortunately in the worst way possible. Sid decides she's going to come along too, and so They all end up inside of his mind, and David's now like a little kid in his mind because the sedated mind now is represented by this little kid. And so they go into the therapist's office that David was seeing as he's stealing everything. But then as he's there, he also sees, like, for some reason, he's seeing other memories. He's seeing memories of himself and the doctor talking in the chair and the little recording thing going. So somehow he's able to not only be there, but also have memories of a past, like two memories within each other, which is very curious, and I don't know how they're going to explain that. But for some reason, Sid can see everything that David sees. You know, she sees the room shaking when Miss Bird and Ptolemy do not. And then she sees as the wall cracks open and these hands start coming out of it. She's like, "We gotta get out of here. We gotta go. We gotta go." I don't know. I guess maybe touching him whenever they swap places. I'm wondering if maybe that transferred some of his power to her. So now, even though she's back in her own body, some of David's power went with her, and so now she can see what he sees. I think, you know, there could be some other explanation for it, but it's very interesting to see that now Sid has the ability to see that as well. Because, you know, we already, I've talked about before, you know, the romance between them is fairly interesting, and the show's handling it very well. But having this connection between them, you know, the fact that they can't touch, but he called it a romance of the mind in the last episode, this is kind of reinforcing that point, that they're connected mentally, you know, now, and it just makes it a whole lot more interesting that they can work through this together. They can see what's going on inside of his mind together and possibly try to fight it. So yeah, that would be very interesting to see if they utilize Sid's ability to see that going forward. But anyway, she follows David out of the room, and you know follows little David as he's running away from the monster and everything. And we go through a few more memories. We see him with Lenny smoking the vapor, and then we go into a room and I'm not sure if that was Philly or Lenny that he was having sex with, but obviously it's something that you know Sid did not expect to stumble in upon and is not happy to see. But she manages to get little David out of the room, and she's like, "Do you have a place where you go to hide?" And so they go out into the hallway, and then we encounter the next part of this episode that really kind of came as a shock to me. It goes beyond just the demon with the yellow eyes. There's another sort of, I guess, antagonist in David's mind, and that is the world's angriest uh, little boy, or whatever, what's it called? The angriest boy in the world, or something like that. Yeah, that little book that talks about the boy that doesn't want to go to bed and then chops off his mother's head and then everybody else is dead and he pumps them all full of lead. I don't know. But, you know, it's a very different bedtime story about killing his mother. Very strange. But we see little David, he's out, I think, on Halloween with his sister, and they've got this little dog with them. And so the dog runs into this backyard, and David, trying to find the dog, looks through this fence and then, you know, opens it up, goes inside, and there's the world's angriest little boy just standing there. And it looks like a costume, but very clearly it's real. It's there in front of David. Not sure what this means, not sure if this is just like the demon with the yellow eyes, just another sort of antagonist in his mind trying to get to him, trying to kind of hurt him in some way. But we don't ever see the dog again, so I'm guessing the dog never was found that night. You know, he just ran away from the world's angriest little boy. But back to where I was, you know, they go into the hallway and there's the world's angriest little boy just kind of staring at a wall, not really looking at them, as David opens up this vent and crawls inside. Well, Sid follows him just as the angriest little boy starts coming after her. So she's crawling through the vent, she makes it in, and then they get to a point where you know, it's hard to navigate and there's not really anywhere to go. And all of a sudden, here comes that gurgling noise that comes from the demon and the hands are like coming into the vent. She's like, "David, gotta wake up now." She wakes up. But Ptolemy, Miss Bird, and David are still asleep. So she goes over, starts hitting. It was kind of weird. I thought, why not hit them with the pillow or something? You know, something to wake them up. She's like hitting next to them to wake them up. I thought that was kind of weird. Maybe that's something that they're not supposed to like touch them at all, even with pillows. You know, obviously she can't touch them, but I don't think her touching a pillow, touching them would transfer the powers. I don't think. Anyway, But she takes the pillow, starts hitting next to Ptolemy, wakes him up. He's like, I lost Miss Bird. We got separated when you ran away. So they're trying to wake her up, and then we see her inside of David's mind. She's walking through the house, gets up to his room, and she hears the dog whimpering. I'm like, oh no. And this entire scene, like I said, it's the build-up, the anticipation of something bad about to happen that's more frightening than anything bad actually happening. You know, it's just, you're sitting there waiting for something. You're waiting for anything to come out and get her. And so she goes inside the closet, turns on the light, and sees the book, The World's Angriest Little Boy. She opens it up and she starts reading it, and she's clearly disturbed by what's in front of her. And then all of a sudden the book slams closed and like breaks her hand. And she pulls it out and she's looking at her hand, it's all like mangled and stuff. All of a sudden the demon pops up behind her, and then she wakes up. I'm just like, what happened? Like, it was so freaky and just disturbing and weird. And then she's awake and she's looking at her hand like it was actually broken, but it's not. And Ptolemy's just like, it's not real, it's just a memory, it can't hurt you. And they look over at David and he's still asleep. And Sid's like, why can't he wake up? And we see David is being yelled at by all those voices again inside of his head. And then it ends. Those final, like, 10-15 minutes where they're inside of his mind were just so gut-wrenchingly scary for me. I don't know why. Obviously, it's not like... I've seen a couple scary movies, you know, not any of the newer ones, but some of the older ones, the ones that were a bit more, like, to be taken a bit more seriously. I've seen stuff like this before. I've seen scary movies before. I'm not a big fan of it, but for some reason this one just really gripped me. I got really involved in it and got really... I was anticipating what's going to happen. I'm getting ready for it. I'm prepared, and it takes my breath away to sit there and wait for something to happen. I'm like, oh my god! You know, you can feel it churning in your stomach. You're just like, something bad's about to happen. I don't want something bad to happen. And it was very masterfully done. You know, all of it, just the build up, the payoff. It's such a good show. You know, everything they do, all of the writing is brilliant. All the setup for everything is brilliant. And honestly, it's the show that, you know, obviously Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is my number one favorite show, so I look forward to that week after week. Except now it's on a hiatus. But anyway, what I'm saying is there's certain shows every week that I'm just like, I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. I can't wait to watch that show. I can't wait to get to it. This is becoming that show. You know, Fargo did that for me. Justified is another show on FX that did that for me. FX generally has a lot of really, really, really good shows. Legion, I'm thinking, is going to be one of those really, really, really good shows because it's doing things week after week that are different than what I've seen before. They're different than most comic book stuff. You know, honestly, and I'm trying to tell my brother this because he's like, oh, superhero shows, I hate superhero shows. It really doesn't feel like one. It doesn't feel like an X-Men show. It doesn't feel like it's, oh yeah, mutants and all that stuff. They keep talking about it here and there. You're talking about him being the most powerful mutant in the world. But to be honest, I mean, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a psychological thriller with some horror elements mixed in. And it's a lot of fun to watch. You know, it is so much fun to all of a sudden change scenes and then bam, you're in another scene and bam, you're in another memory and you're just trying to... It's almost like you have to really be focused or else you're going to lose your grip on the reality of the show. You're going to lose the sense of what's happening. Because all it takes is one moment if you're not paying attention, and all of a sudden you could be lost. You could be like, oh wait, what just happened? And so it's a lot of fun to really focus in and be like, okay, so now they're entering a memory. Okay, so what does this mean, and what does that mean? And now I'm lost. You know, it's so much fun. It is so much fun. So I recommend it if you haven't. If for some reason you're watching this and you haven't started watching yet, I really do recommend the show. And just, it deserves the viewership. It deserves good reviews because it's doing a lot of very interesting stuff and just having fun with it. You know, and it's mixing in a lot of elements and giving due time to everything that it's trying to build. You know, like I've said before, the relationship stuff is not something I'm normally a fan of, but they're doing such a good job of making it meaningful to your main character of the show, and they're not drowning us with it. You know, we have these moments between David and Sid that are touching moments, but then they're done and we're on to the next scene. You know, they're not stretching it out, or they're not, okay, we need to stop the plot for a second so we can have a David and Sid scene. none of that. It's all relative to the plot. It's all tying in with everything else going on. It's a moment for David who's struggling with everything he's going through. It's a moment for him to take a break and have somewhat of a normal moment with this girl that he can't touch, or else he switches bodies with her. Uh, Kind of ironic, but either way, really good show. Really enjoying it. Looking forward to next week or this week's episode. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this episode? Let me know. We can talk about it and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Legion reviews, and I'll see you at the next one.